Thanks for joining our monthly community webcast. I'm Jürgen Kress, part of the Oracle product management team. In case you missed one of our webcasts, on-demand recordings are available. For details, please see our monthly community newsletter and subscribe to the Oracle Video Hub partner channel. In today's presentation, Blaine Carter will introduce Oracle Application Platform. Good morning, Blaine.
Howdy, how you doing?
So what is the Oracle Applications Platform?
The Oracle Application Platform is a suite of tools that will allow our users to modify Oracle SaaS applications.
That's exciting. So it's a great service opportunity for partners to connect Oracle SaaS with HCM, CX, and ERP based on Oracle integration, and then extend it, build additional applications, and build industry frameworks.
Yeah, I'll be running through some demos today to show you how to do that a couple different ways.
Excellent, thanks. So let's get started. Please pay attention to the safe harbor statement. Please blog and tweet about services and functionality which is available today. Quick housekeeping. Please feel free to post your questions via the conference Q&A tool or write them via Twitter at #PassCommunity. At the end of the webcast, we will answer them. Slides are available via the Video Hub channel and community website. Please share your feedback via the Zoom survey at the end of the webcast. For today's agenda, I will kick it off with the community announcements and then hand over to Blaine to describe the platform. At the end of the webcast, we will answer your questions. So quick updates for customers. We are excited and humbled to share that Gartner has named Oracle Integration as a leader and positioned highest for the ability to execute in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. We couldn't have done this without you and your partnership and support. The report is available via the Oracle website at bit.ly/GartnerORC. For the latest release updates on Oracle Integration 23.02, please join our product update webcast in March. Neil Kominski and myself will provide you the latest features like parallel processing and projects. Best to learn from successful customer implementations. Prime One, our partner in Austria, has implemented a digital transformation project at ORS. ORS is an Austrian radio and TV broadcaster. Join us on April 12th to learn more on a digital transformation journey and to connect billing and revenue management. All upcoming events, trainings, and product announcements are published in the Integration Customer Newsletter. Read the Winter Edition and subscribe to receive further updates. For Oracle Digital Assistant, we have a best practice webcast series available. In case you implement a bot, make use of the 6-part series. We would also like to invite you to our upcoming Customer Success webcast on the Digital Assistant side. On April 25th, Ocamonics will showcase a digital assistant for HCM or human capital solution. For the latest release information, including SQL Dialog, a tool to generate enterprise bots based on an Oracle database, join Robbie and myself on March 29th. Information is published in the customer newsletter. Quick updates for partners. Based on the huge demand, we continue to offer the free hands-on training. Any SaaS partner who wants to connect SaaS is invited. Upcoming schedules include Brazil, US, India, South America, APAC, and EMEA. For registration, please see the community newsletter. We also did update the community website with the latest information. For Digital Assistant, we also offer a hands-on training. The hands-on training is most suitable for partners and Oracle employees who want to build their own bot. Upcoming schedules include South America, US, Asia, and Brazil. For registration, please see the partner community newsletter and visit the partner website. Today's webcast is recorded and will be available on demand, including the presentation and slides at Oracle Video Hub. With this short introduction, I would like to hand over to you, Blaine.
So howdy, I'm Blaine Carter. I am a product manager with Oracle, and I cover Oracle Visual Builder and Oracle Visual Builder Studio. And today with me helping out for the Q&A is Laura Akel, and Steve Waterhouse will be joining for Q&A in a bit. It's kind of early for the people in California, so he'll be here in a little bit. All right, so I think it was mentioned, if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A. You'll find the button at the bottom of your screen on Zoom. Okay, in case you missed it, at CloudWorld this year, Oracle announced the Oracle Application Platform, which is a suite of tools that allows you to build and extend your Oracle applications. So no matter how complete our suite of applications is, there's always going to be something specific to your business that you're going to want to do maybe just a little bit differently. And so what the Oracle Application Platform does is it lets you create your own consumer-grade enterprise applications using the very same Redwood design system and tools that we at Oracle are using internally to build the Fusion applications. So this is going to help your apps feel, integrate, and behave just the same way that ours do. So with the Redwood components, composites, and page templates, you can create user experiences that your employees and customers are going to love, including conversational experiences, intelligent recommendations, search, and visualizations. Redwood components are also designed, built, and tested to meet accessibility requirements right out of the box. Using low-code development tools, such as Visual Builder, that have access to all of Oracle's built-in business objects, makes it easier and faster for developers to build enterprise applications. So here's just a few examples of some of the pages that are out there using Redwood now. So Redwood is built into Oracle Visual Builder, which is part of the Visual Builder platform. And Oracle SaaS customers can start building Redwood applications today, right now. Visual Builder with Redwood is enabled in all of the Oracle SaaS instances, and it's associated with the test instance of Oracle SaaS. So any customer that has SaaS has access to Visual Builder Studio. And I'll show you in a little bit how to get to that if you're not familiar. Basically, once you're in the test instance that you provisioned, you'll find it under the configuration menu. And then from there, you can open up Visual Builder Studio and start extending Oracle SaaS. The Visual Builder platform is a declarative, low-code suite of development tools. And these tools are intended for a business-level user. You don't have to be an expert software developer to make changes. However, with Visual Builder, if you do happen to be an expert software developer, Visual Builder allows you to get all the way down to the code level. So there's a level of experience for everybody. The Visual Builder platform consists of both Visual Builder and Visual Builder Studio, and it provides a visual development environment that you can use to build your enterprise applications in obviously a visual manner. I'm going to probably say that word a lot. So using these services, you can create, extend, and host enterprise applications right now using like I said, the test environment. There are a lot of integrated tools to help your team members collaborate on your projects. And it's also the exact same platform that we're using inside of Oracle to develop our own SaaS applications today. I'm going to go over a couple different ways that you might extend SaaS applications using the Visual Builder platform. So this is a diagram. I will pull this diagram and a different one that's similar up a couple times through the presentation, but this is an overall diagram of the platform. Up top here, you'll see Oracle Visual Builder Studio. Visual Builder Studio provides the design experience, and it's where you're going to find a full suite of development tools, including Git repositories, CI/CD pipelines, task tracking, agile boards, both Kanban and Scrum, code review tools that you can use for merge requests, wiki, and much, much more. Once you build your application, you're going to deploy it to a runtime environment. So in this diagram, I'm showing the standalone Visual Builder Cloud Service, or it's part of the Oracle Integration Cloud Service. So down here, you will see this is the Visual Builder instance that you would stand up through your cloud account. And in this instance, it also includes a built-in database and the ability to create business objects and the ability to connect to external REST services using some of the more advanced authentication methods, and I'll touch on that a little bit more later. So the new Fusion application models are being built with Visual Builder Studio using Redwood experiences. And like I mentioned, this allows our developers to have a more rapid application development experience internally when we build our applications, and it will be the same for you. If you look at the recent releases for some of our applications, you can see that these models are already being delivered using the Redwood experiences. They look and behave much nicer than the previous generation. I think so. For example, connection models in HCM and the new digital sales in Oracle CX have already been delivered using Visual Builder, and they're available for customers today. So this is nice because, like I mentioned, you get to use the exact same tools to extend the applications that the developers use to build it. All right, so if you're going to modify one of the delivered pages, which I'll demo here in a second, or if you're going to create an extension that's going to be hosted as part of Oracle SaaS, that platform is slightly different than the one I showed before. The page modifications and application extensions are going to be hosted in the exact same infrastructure as your Oracle Cloud apps, and they'll have the same access to the data. And the really nice thing, they'll use the exact same security roles and privileges that you've already set up, so you won't have to go reinvent the security mechanisms. So there are three basic things that you can do with Visual Builder Studio and Oracle SaaS. And the first one is you can go modify the Redwood-based models in Oracle SaaS that Oracle has delivered out of the box. Now, this is going to be a specific set of things that you can modify. These are going to need to be pages that have been built with the Redwood experience. They're not all there yet, but more are coming. And the components that you can modify on the screen will be defined by the Oracle team that designed that page. So if you have questions about which page you can modify or certain features that you need to modify, those would be questions for the team that is designing the specific page you're trying to modify. The next thing you can do is you can use Visual Builder Studio to create a whole new page or set of pages to provide additional functionality in Oracle SaaS. I think, like I mentioned before, these first two changes and the page changes and extensions will be hosted directly in your Oracle SaaS infrastructure. You don't need a standalone Visual Builder instance to run those. Now, for the third one, this is where you would see your apps would be hosted in a standalone Visual Builder instance, and you can start that up in the cloud. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But this would be times when maybe you want to create a mashup from data that's in Oracle SaaS with some data in an external source, such as an extra database, or maybe your company has created and some sort of an application that's an internal application, and you want to pull data from that application and mix it up with the Oracle SaaS data. Those types of applications would be hosted in the runtime instance of Visual Builder or Oracle Integration Cloud. All right, so why do you want to do this at all? I'll give you a couple examples. Like I said, Oracle provides a lot of functionality right out of the box, but there's always going to be something that you want to do a little different. So one example is maybe there's a page that Oracle has created and it has a specific look and functionality, and you'd like it to look or behave just a little bit differently. Oh, pushed the wrong button there. So maybe you want to hide a field, maybe you want to move something around. You could add a computational field to do a little math for you right there on the screen. Maybe you have a different unique business requirement or a business flow that your company is using that's not included with the Oracle application. In those cases, you can build a standalone application and embed it directly into the Oracle Cloud application. So, for example, maybe you have a team that's tasked with updating some information that's found on multiple pages. You could create a custom page or a small set of pages or a large set if you'd like, and consolidate that data into a new model. And when you deploy that extension, it's going to run directly on top of the Oracle SaaS infrastructure using all of the same security roles and permissions that you've already configured. And then maybe if you want to expose some data to non-SaaS users, Now, this is non-SaaS users both inside the company and potentially outside the company. For example, maybe you want to put some product information on your company webpage. That would be a time when you'd make an application and host it on the external Visual Builder instance. And so I'm going to go through each of those three options here in a demo in just a second. Sorry, I had to mute and cough. I didn't really want to cough into your ears. All right. I'm going to start out with the demo modifying one of the pages that was created by Oracle. When you want to do this, the first thing you need to do is make sure you're in your Oracle SaaS test instance. And then you're going to open the page that you want to modify. And in the menu over there on the right-hand side, you'll have an option called Edit in Visual Builder, Edit Page in Visual Builder. So it'll pop up. You can see it right there. Once you click that, it's going to take this page and load it into a special instance of Visual Builder that will allow you to make modifications. And like I mentioned, the level of changes that you can make are controlled by the team who creates that specific page. So if you need to do something a little different, you would want to talk to the team that's working on that page. Some of the typical modifications are listed there, showing hiding fields, moving things around, changing the way things look, maybe add a little content, maybe throw an image or something up there. There's lots of stuff you can do there. The ability to modify pages is only on pages that have been developed in Visual Builder using the Redwood model in Oracle SaaS. There's lots of them out there today, and you're going to see more and more in the future. All right, enough blah, blah, blah. Let's see a demo. Let me pull this up, pull that up. All right, I'm going to try and refresh, and hopefully my login doesn't time out in the middle of a demo. But since I keep using the word demo, you know something bad's going to happen. But we'll work through whatever happens. So here I am logged into my screen. I'm going to go to the Me page. I'm going to go to the Journeys page. So forgive some of the delays. I'm using a demo system that's shared with a bunch of people. And if somebody else is running a demo, that might be using some of my resources. I'm going to open up a task list here. And so for my example, here's my tasks. And I'm a grumpy old dude. I don't like icons. I think everything should be words. I want to get rid of the icons. And I'm going to just assume everybody thinks exactly the same way I do. So I'm going to come to this page. I'm going to open the menu. I'm going to go to Edit in Visual Builder. And it will open that page right here. Oh, sorry, skipped a step. Like I said, there are multiple people working in this with me. So this is my project area. I can have multiple project areas. I'm going to select the project that I want to work in. And now what this is doing is it's checking to see if I've already made changes to this page. I would already have a workspace out there, and it may open that workspace again. In this case, I've already cleared out all my test workspaces, so it's making a brand new one. In a workspace, it's basically a workspace is an instance of Visual Builder. It includes its own internal little Git repository right here, where if you're into Git and you know how that works, you can do all of your Git functions right here. Yep, I know what the dot means. Anyway, the dot was just saying that message just says if you see a little dot here, it means you've made some sort of a change to the page. So I'm going to minimize that panel so that I have a little more room. So here's my screen here. If I click in live, it actually is a live page. I can work the functionality on the screen. Minimize that back up there, go back to design, and now I can edit the page. So fairly simple to make changes. You find the thing you want to change and click on it. And over here, you'll see Open Rule Set Editor. When I click on that, it opens the editor, and you can see this is a rule set, and it is displaying this layout. The default rule set, even if you could, you don't want to modify the default. You want to leave that as a fallback. So this little button here, I click Duplicate Rule, and then I say what I'm about to do. I'm going to remove the icon. And I'm going to say Duplicate. And so that created a new rule set and a copy of the layout. Now I could, if I assumed that maybe I'm not the only person who doesn't like icons, I could open up this condition and I could go down here and restrict it by roles or specific user ID. I could make it so it's only for me, but I assume everybody likes everything just the same way I do. So I'm going to make it available for everybody. And I'm going to click remove icon, or not remove icon. I'm going to click the layout, which I called remove icon. Over here, you'll see the list of fields. If you want to change the order, you drag and drop the little handlebar thing there. A couple ways to get rid of the icon. I can uncheck it over here and it removes it from that side. If I uncheck the wrong thing, I just recheck it and grab that little handlebar and drag it up till I see the little blue line, and there's the icon would be back in place. Or the other way to get rid of it, I just click that X and it goes away. If I look at the journey page again, you can see that, let me minimize that. You can see that the icon is gone. So great, I'm happy with that. I'm going to push my changes up. So if you understand Git and you prefer working with Git, you can do all that, the stuff needed over here in the Git repository, or you can just hit publish. If I just hit publish, I get two options. One is merge now, and the other is merge after review. I highly recommend doing all of your changes after a review. Have another set of eyes look at your changes, make sure that what you did is something that you should be doing, and it really helps to have somebody else look at it to spot bugs. I assume I know what I'm doing. I only changed one file. I'm going to do it the bad way, and I'm just going to say that I removed the icons. And I'm going to publish my changes. Now, once I do this, Visual Builder is going to handle all of that Git work for me. If you want to know what each of these steps does, go check out the Visual Builder blog website, and you'll find a blog post and a video out there where I go through all of the steps here and explain what's going on. But basically, it does all the Git magic and pushes my changes directly to the main branch of the repository. And then what that does is it kicks off a pipeline. And so any second now, I should see a little pop-up here that says the pipeline started. Now, with the pipeline, expect a little bit of a delay because I am in the demo environment, sharing the sharing the resources with other people. And of course, since it's a demo environment, all of the resources are tuned really low. So if I click Open Job, this takes me directly to Visual Builder Studio. This is that suite of tools I mentioned before, where you've got your Git, you got your merge requests, all kinds of tools in here to help your developers out. But I am interested in builds, which is where I was, and I'm going to look at the pipeline. So this pipeline here, when I created the workspace, it created a Git repository, and then it also created a pipeline that looks like this. It's a very simple pipeline that has a package and a deploy. The package gathers all the bits and pieces it needs, puts them into a little package, and deploys it to production. Now it is, let's go back to the job queue and look at the job that it's waiting on. So it's waiting on the executor. The executor is, think of it as just a virtual machine or a Docker container in the background that is going to be my little engine that runs everything I need. And sometimes that takes a minute to spin up from scratch. So I am going to pretend that that has worked and that the pipeline has gone through. And I'll come back and check on that in a minute. Once it's done, in the main screen here, you'll see these icons disappear. So let's say we're at that stage, and then all of a sudden my phone starts ringing because apparently I'm the only one who doesn't like icons and everybody else wants the icon back. So I'm going to go back and undo my change real quick. So I come back to Visual Builder, click on one of the line items, open the rule set editor. Now I could duplicate this rule set and add the icon back, but then that would be exactly the same as the default. So the other option is I can just come in and delete the changes that I made and then hit the publish button again. I'm not going to hit the publish button again right now because the pipeline's already running. I'm going to give it a second to finish. It's smart enough to not break anything. but it's a demo, so you can never be too sure. Let's have a look at the pipeline, see if it's running yet. We're still queued up. All right, so once that second pipeline finished, oh, here's my little message saying package has finished. So the pipeline is running. So once that pipeline is finished and then the second pipeline finished, the screen should be back to how it was to start with. All right, and I will check in on that as we go through the rest of the demos. All right, so that's a real quick, easy demonstration of how to modify an existing Oracle SaaS page using Visual Builder. All right, so the next demo that I'm going to do is we're going to be creating what we call an app UI extension. So this is going to be a new application that can have multiple pages or just one page if you'd like. It can access most of the Oracle SaaS data through an included catalog that I'll show you. And then if there's any data that you can't find in the catalog, Visual Builder can also access the data from any Oracle Cloud app that has its data exposed as a REST service, which is most of them. And you can also access custom objects that you have already created in Oracle SaaS. So for example, if you used App Composer to create a custom business object in Oracle SaaS, you can access those in your extension built through Visual Builder. And for this type of an app, you can also access external REST services as long as they don't require too complex of an authentication method. So basic auth, yes. Little bits of OAuth, what that list is and how fancy of an authentication method you can use is going to be in the documentation. The list is changing, so I can't really tell you what the whole list is right now, but check out the documentation and you can see what that is. If you need something a little fancier, you can do the same thing, but you would do it over in the hosted Visual Builder instance. All right, so once I deploy this, this extension, it would be deployed right into Oracle SaaS, and it would show up in the Oracle SaaS menu using the same authentication and permissions that the rest of the Oracle SaaS apps use. And just like with the page change, a CI/CD pipeline would be automatically created and when you create the workspace using a Git repository. All right, so let's go over here. So this is the second version of the architecture. The development studio, the VB Studio part is exactly the same, and it's the same instance. So I can use the same VB Visual Builder Studio that's included in Oracle SaaS to run multiple projects of multiple different project types. The difference here is it's going to deploy to Oracle SaaS rather than an external Visual Builder instance. All right, so enough blah, blah, blah on that. Let's do another demo. Get that back up and make sure I'm on that. So I'm going to open some notes on the screen that you can't see because we don't want to make this a marathon session of how good does Blaine type. And let's refresh and see if it's gone through. All right, so the changes have gone through and the icons are gone. So going back to demo one, and so to put those back, I haven't changed anything here beyond what you already saw. I'm going to hit publish. And I'm going to say, let me close these. All right, I'm going to say, oops. All right, put the icon back. And I'll hit publish. And that's going to go through the same thing it did before. And when it's done, the icon will just show up. All right, so from that same page, I'm going to use this menu, and this could be, you could be on the home page wherever you want to be, but as long as you have this menu, and you can come down to configuration and hit Visual Builder. And here you can see the project. So this is the same Visual Builder Studio instance that I'm in here looking at the pipeline. So I guess I don't really need that one anymore. In here, I have my workspaces. This is what I was talking about, where it gives you your own little instance of Visual Builder with its own Git repository. When that's done, it's going to deploy to these environments. I have an environment set up for my Fusion apps, and I have an environment set up for a standalone Visual Builder over on OCI. So for this instance, I'm going to hit new, and a new visual application is going to be one of the standalone types. This is going to be an extension. So I'm going to say new application extension, and I'm going to call this Blaine Accounts. The environment that I want to use is my Oracle SaaS environment. Now, I'm going to do this a little differently than you probably would. If I check this create new repository, it's going to ask me for a name and a working branch, and it's going to create a brand new Git repository for this extension. And that would create the pipeline and do all of the stuff that I've already shown you as far as the pipeline goes, which you've already seen. So I'm going to not do that just to save a little bit of time here. And so I'm going to use a Scratch repository. Now, if you do create an environment using a Scratch repository, it's still possible to push that back up to Visual Builder Studio and create a Git repository there, the pipeline, and all of that. So your one nice thing with Visual Builder is it goes above and beyond to make sure that it's difficult to break things. The undo and the redo here work really, really well. Even if you go into the code and start typing things, it will undo your code changes and all of your visual changes. All right, so I am in a new workspace. It looks slightly different than the last workspace I was in because now I'm doing an extension. So what I want to do is I want to create an app UI, and I'm going to call this Blaine Accounts, and I'm going to say create a new extension. So the first page that it initially logs into is always going to be called main start. You can rename this, move it around. You can get to the main start page either by double clicking here or going into this menu and following down the chain to get to the main start. I will open that, and that means I don't need this tab, nor do I need that tab. I like to try and keep my workspace a little tidier than my actual desk. So I like to close things I'm not using. So here's just a stubbed in app ready to go. Now I want to do some Redwood. I want to use some Redwood components in my application. So the first thing I'm going to look for is a welcome page template. I'm just going to drag that over, drop it on the screen. Now this template's going to have some built-in functionality. It's going to have some spaces to put other components in, and it'll be all wired together to make it work really nice. And so, for example, actually, before I get to the components, I want to make it look a little nicer. So I prefer the background color to be slate. I want the description to say search and edit accounts. Now here I'm going to copy this because you really don't want to watch me try and type a URL. I'm going to put the URL in there of the person swinging on the cloud, and then for the page title, I'm going to call it accounts. And so you can see as I make changes to the properties, it just shows up so you can see your effects right away. I didn't have to refresh or reload or any of that. So now I have, that looks nice enough for me for now. So the next thing I want to do is add another component called an input search. And I can just take this component and I can drop it down here, or I can just drop it here. Notice the focus on this as I move it around. See the blue where it says welcome page template just above my cursor. As I'm moving this around, it tells you where your focus is. And if I put it here, it's the same as putting it there. So, and I held on to it too long. So let me try that again. So I'm going to drop this into the search slot that's built into the page template, and it will create that object there. Now I need to, right now it's just a blank text box that looks nice. So I need to go into the data and I want to tie it to a variable. So I hit this little down arrow here and I'm going to create a new page variable. So this variable is going to be available to everything on the page. And I'm going to call it search string. And that looks good. I'll hit create. So now I have my search box, and whatever I type in here is stored in this search string variable. So now I need to display some data. So the next thing I want to put in is a collection container. So I'm going to drag this one the other way, and I'm going to just drop it on the page template here. I think my headphones just died. Can anybody still hear me?
We can
We
hear you.
can still hear you.
Okay, let me take my headphones off then, because now we're going through my speakers. All right, so I'm going to just drop this on the welcome page template, and I'm going to put it in the default slot. And so now I have a place to put my data. So I need to get some data. So I'm going to go to my service connections, and I'm going to create a new service connection. And so here is where I can define the data source. I could use a REST endpoint that's just a bare REST endpoint somewhere. Maybe it's something I created with ORDS, Oracle REST Data Services. Maybe it's something else out on the web that would be directly to an endpoint. I could use a specification. So if there's a suite of REST endpoints that's defined by a Swagger doc or something along those lines, I could put that in here and define a suite of endpoints, or I can do the fun way and go directly into the catalog. So this catalog is going to display all of the cloud applications that I have access to. And so I want sales and service data. So I will go into here. Oh, good. It took a little bit there. I was hoping I hadn't expired a password. All right, I'm going to use the accounts data object. So I'm going to hit create, and this is going to go out and collect all of the endpoints for accounts and make all of that data available to my application. So I don't need that. I can close this back down. And so now I can go over here and see this data tab. And in there, I can see the new service that I added for accounts. So I'm going to take just the accounts level thing and drop it directly on the collection. See, I can drop it either way. So I'm going to drop it on the collection container, and it's going to ask, how do I want to render this? Now you'll notice that there are multiple different endpoints that could be used. So maybe I'm creating a create form and edit form details. I'm actually creating a table. So I will tell it to create a table, and then Visual Builder will determine that since I'm using a table, I'm probably needing to use the get many endpoint. So it will give me a list of those. I want all of the data, so I'll hit accounts. Now here it's going to ask me which pieces of data in that endpoint that I want. So I want the name of the organization, and I want the CEO name. Notice as I check these, they pop up in the columns in the order that I'm selecting them. And so here I want to see some revenue. So I want the current fiscal year and the next fiscal year. All right, that looks good. So I'll hit next. And now here, I don't want to just blip all the data on the screen. I want to have some filter criterion. And I like saying that word, so I'm probably going to say criterion a couple times. If I click on filter criterion, it comes down here, and I can add a condition to the REST API to filter the data that's on my screen. So I'm going to add a condition. And so here, if I just start typing organization name, I can select the object there, and I'm going to say if org name contains the value that I have. So I could just type for search string, but I see it here. So if whatever I type in my search string is contained in the org name, that's the data that's going to be displayed. So I read that backwards. But I'll hit done. I have my filter criterion defined. Yes, I do like to say that word. All right, finish. So without touching anything else, you give it a second, and it goes right out and gets the data, and it's displayed right here in the design view or the live view. And we can test that in the live view. Maybe I want to look for Owens. And so my filter is working. All right, so the next thing I want to do is the displaying of the data is a little not web cool. I think I made that up. So what I want to do, and I could do this a couple different ways. I could go into the all and find the settings to set this, or for those coders in the audience, I can jump right to the HTML for the screen. I can find the OJ table object. It's an Oracle Jet table. And I can set the Oracle policy for the scroller to be HTML. And I go back to the live. And now you can see, watch the scroll bar here. As I scroll down, it fetches more data. So that's what that little change does. So it's as simple as that. You can do it visually through the select options, or you can go straight to the code. All right, so I have my data and I want to be able to edit the data. That's the purpose of this screen. So if I click on the table and I hit quick start, Visual Builder already knows what this table is based on and potentially other things that I might need. So over here, I can add a create page, edit page, detail page. I'm going to add an edit page, and I'm going to choose the source for my data as accounts, and I'm going to choose the update endpoint for accounts. I'm going to hit next, and here I'm going to select the same objects that I'm displaying because that makes it a little less confusing when you're trying to update screens. Revenue. So now if I click next before current, they're out of order. I can drag that up. It's simple as that. I'll hit finish, and now Visual Builder will go out and create an edit screen. Now I can get to this new screen a couple different ways. You'll notice now that I highlight that and I have this edit button that I didn't have before, or I could go through the menu. I'll use the edit button. And so that pulls up. You'll notice up here, now I have two tabs open. This one is for the edit accounts. I can make simple changes here. I can make complex changes too, but I'm going to just make a couple simple changes. I like the 2-column display, and I like my labels on the top. So something simple like that. I'm going to switch to live and see if it's functional. Right out of the box, I'll just change the potential revenue. I'll add a 5. I will hit save. And it takes me back to the main start page, which was my search page, and you'll see the data has been updated. So that is a quick example of how to create an extension to Oracle SaaS pages. If I were to publish that, it would show up in the menu in my cloud apps, and my users could get to it from there. All right, sorry, hit the wrong button there. Okay, so that particular demo is available on Oracle Live Labs, and you can run through that in your own test instance on Oracle SaaS. There'll be a link for that later. But sometimes you want to go a little beyond those two methods. Maybe you have people in your company that don't have access to SaaS, but you do want to give them access to some of the data. Maybe you need to get to some data that's outside of your on an external REST service that's using some really tough authentication. These are the times when you're going to need a Visual Builder runtime instance, and you can find this on your Oracle Cloud account under Developer Services. You'll see under Visual Builder, you'll see Visual Builder, and now you'll also see Visual Builder Studio up there, so you can get to a different instance of that if you prefer. But when you create these apps, you can still get to the catalog and use the SaaS data with all of the permissions and all of that baked in, the same as with the others. All right, so when you use the separate instance, let's see, I already said that part. You can still use the same stuff. You can still access the data using single sign-on, using the same identities. The other nice thing, when you use the catalog data, you get the built-in capabilities for pagination, filtering, sorting, data relationships, and your apps can still take advantage of the same Redwood look and feel, or if you prefer, you can create your own look and feel. This is going to use the platform architecture that I mentioned at the beginning that will deploy to the standalone VB instance, and allow you to use a little bit more advanced authentication methods. All right, so let's look at doing that. All right, so let's real quick, let's refresh the journey screen because I forgot to look at that a little while ago. At this point, the icons should be back. There they are, the icons are back, everybody's happy. All right, so I am going to close that, and I'm going to just use this little arrow here to get back up to Visual Builder Studio. And you can see in my workspaces, I have the 2 demos that I've already done. So for this third one, I'm going to create a new visual application. So the scenario for this demo is my company has decided to participate in a softball league, and I need to keep track of the members on our team. So I'm going to call this application softball. And this is going to go into the OCI instance of Visual Builder. And once again, I'm going to use the Scratch repository because I'm not going to deploy this to production because the pipeline is the same as what you've seen before. So it's going out and creating me a new workspace that's going to be tied to the Oracle Cloud instance of Visual Builder. So notice as I'm going through this that I'm still using the same Visual Builder Studio, the exact same instance with the same project and all of the same tools, but I'm just deploying to different environments. So you can consolidate all of your work in the same instance, and you won't need to have different instances of Visual Builder Studio. Okay, so here's my new workspace. I am going to come over here and open this up. So I can either create I could create a web application, or I could create a mobile application. Either one is fine. They both come with what's called progressive web app functionality. If you're not familiar with that, that's the ability to open a web page. And let's say if you're on your phone, you could install the web page as if it were an app. So your users can just open the app, and I'm holding up my quotey fingers right there. So they can just open the app without having to go to a browser. So that's kind of a nice feature. I am going to create a new web application, and I'm going to call it softball. And I'll hit create. So for this application, I'm going to need some data. So I'm going to the business objects, and that's the little database looking icon. I'm going to click new business object, and this is going to be my team member. Member. So when you're doing this, you enter the singular for the data, and then when you get to the next screen, it will ask you for the plural. So then it knows how to label things. All right, so here's my business object. So in my fields, I am going to track. I'm going to try and minimize the data that I'm tracking. So here I'm just going to track everybody by email. And I'm going to make this an email type, which were I to use this in fancier screens, it would have some built-in fancy capabilities. So for future sake, I will do that. And then I want to keep track of which position people are playing on the team. And I want to keep track of the batting average. And that one's going to be a number. All right. I also want my email to be required and unique. That way I get one entry for everybody with their email. So there's my business object. If I go back over to my main start page and I look at the data, I already have the data up. I can go into that new business object, and I can just drag. I'm going to just drag the get many, since I already know I'm going to make a table, and drop it there and say make a table. So the data that I want, just like what we saw before, I want to see the email, I want to see the position and the batting average. I'm not going to add any filter criterion, even though I like to say that word because it's not going to be a big list. It's only using half the screen. Let's give it all 12 columns. So there is a quick table that has been created tied to that business object that I created. I need to get some data into it. I could go back to the business object and start hand typing, but I'm lazy. I don't want to do that. I like to use my tools. So I'm going to go to quick start. Notice the table is highlighted, and I'm going to add a create page based on team members, and email is already pre-checked because it's required. And I will also want the position and the batting average. I'm going to hit finish, and it added this little button right there. So once again, to get to the screen, I can click this button, or I could walk through the list that's over in the application definition. Couple simple changes. I'm going to make it 2 columns, and I'm going to put my labels on the top. Okay, so I think I mentioned I'm lazy. I don't want to type all this stuff in. I want to have a lookup to get the email address, and I'd also like to see the name. So I'm going to pull that data from my Cloud Apps data. So I'm going to go into service connection, create a new service connection. I already talked about those. I'm going to go into catalog. This time I'm going into HCM. Now, the first couple times I did this demo, I did the bad thing where I just went down and selected workers, which is all the data about all of the workers. The bad side of that for the demo is when it creates that object, it has 700 or 800 endpoints and features in there. So it takes a little while for that to build all of those things for me. And from a more practical perspective, assuming this was actually a softball app, I probably should only be using public data. I probably should not add access to data that I don't need access to. So I'm going to very specifically drill down to just the get many for public workers. So I'm going to hit create here, and that creates my service. Now back to the application. I am going to go into the components, and I want a select. Oh, see, my typing is awesome. I'm going to put in a select single object. Now I could just drop it over here and try and lay it exactly where I want it. Or the easy way is I can find form layout down here in the structure and drop it right in front of the email address. So let me change a couple of the properties there. I don't want it to say select single. I want it to say name. So I change that. It changes over here. For the data, if you're not familiar with how a select single object works, it's going to display one thing, and then the value for this field is going to be something else. So in the data, I want to set the value to be the email from the page, from the object that you find on the page. So the value for this is going to use the same variable as the value for the email. For the display, I'm going to go, I'm still highlighted on the select single object, quick start. I'm going to hit add options, and that public workers that I added, I'm going to select that, and it's going to show me all of the available data. So the label is what you'll see on the screen. The value is what's going to be written to the variable. So I could pick, full name, and that would show up there, or I could pick display name. That's probably the nicer one. And then for the value, whatever the second thing I select is, will go to the value. So display name and work email, that looks good. I'll hit finish. I'm not going to put any filter criterion here. I do like to say that word. All right, so that's set up. I'm going to go to the live mode, and I am going to hit the select, and it's doing a query against my cloud apps. I'm going to select Amy. There's Amy's email. Amy is going to play first base, and Amy is awesome. Amy has a batting average of 900. I'll hit save, and this will take me back to that list screen, and Amy is entered right there. So once again, I'd like to see the name, and so I am going to go back into design. I'm going to select the table. I'm going to go to the data. I'm going to add a new empty column, and I want that to be the first column. So I'll drag it up here, and I'm going to put a title on that of name. So that's going to be the name column. Once again, I'm going to use the same. So I could just use a text object, and I could write a JavaScript function that goes out and uses the email address against a REST API and pulls back the name. And while that does sound fun, I like to do that kind of stuff, I also don't want to do all that extra work. So I'm just going to take that same single select object that I used before, drop that here. I'm going to take out the hint, and I'm going to go to the data. Now, this time with the data, the value, it's slightly different. Notice this is the row object, and so I'm going to use the email from the row object. So that will be the value for the select single. And just like before, I'll go to quick start. I'll hit add options, public workers, next. And I want the display name and the work email. I'll hit next, finish, and you thought I was going to say criterion. I said it anyway. Anyway, I'll come down here, and you can see now I have my I can see the name, but I still have this drop down list, and changing it doesn't really do anything. So to make it a little bit nicer, one little trick is with this type of an Oracle Jet object, if I go in and on the single select, I make it read only, the functionality still works like before. So whatever the email address is, it will look up the name and display it, but it looks like it's regular text. So that's kind of a nice feature. Let's give this a test real quick. I'm going to come back to the add screen. I'm going to add Tracy. Tracy's going to play shortstop. Batting average, not quite as good, but still really awesome, 850. I'm going to hit save, and there's Tracy. All right, so getting short on time here, but that's a quick demo of how I wrote an app with my own custom business object, but I still integrated data from the Oracle Cloud apps, the SaaS app. And I wanted to cover this real quick. You're not stuck with just the little two-step pipeline that's auto-created for you. Here's an example of a Visual Builder app that I use for a different demo, where I modified the package step, added some extra steps to it, and I added in the step before that creates a database. Here I split off. This is using a standalone, a separate ATP database. And here I use Liquibase to update my objects. Here I use UTPL SQL to run unit tests against my packages and functions and whatnot. Down here, I add a step for unit testing Visual Builder. I should probably add in integration testing and end-to-end testing, but then that makes my pipeline too long for this slide. I generate some docs, I gather everything up, and I package it for release, and this runs nightly. So this is mine every night. It packages up that app and it's ready for release. So this is just an example of a more fancy pipeline you can construct, starting with the default pipeline that was created for you. All right, so I ran that a little bit long. Hopefully your questions have been getting answered quickly for you. I'm going to go over a couple of the more frequently asked questions to try and hit off maybe a few of them. So can I modify every page in Oracle SaaS with Visual Builder? Unfortunately, the answer is no. You can only modify the pages that have been specifically configured to be modified and have been written using Visual Builder with the Redwood system. The number of models that you can modify is quite large, and it's growing constantly. If you have specific questions about a specific page, talk to the team that is working on that page. All right, can I create a new app UI extension using SaaS data from an app that is not currently written using VB? Yes, you can. You can create an extension like the second demo that I did, or you can create a new app like the third demo that I did on any of the Oracle SaaS data that shows up in the catalog. And if it doesn't show up in the catalog, any data that has a REST API on it, which is almost all of the Oracle SaaS applications. So anything you write can still access that data. And still, if it's in the catalog, you get all that extra functionality I was talking about before. All right, when do I need a standalone VB instance? When you're trying to access externally secured services that are using the more advanced security, that's one time. When you want to allow non-SaaS users to access your application, whether that's internal or external. And if you have a separate database and you want to use a standalone database that's outside of what's built in, that would be another time. There are videos on our YouTube channel showing how to do a bunch of this stuff. You can find it on our YouTube channel. Can I use SaaS Visual Builder Studio for non-SaaS work? Yes, that Visual Builder Studio instance that comes built into your Oracle SaaS environment, you can use that for whatever you want. It doesn't have to be just for Oracle SaaS apps. It doesn't have to be just for Visual Builder. You could run a Node or a Python or a Java app through that same process, build pipelines, There's a Docker repository built into it. There's an NPM repository. There's all kinds of tools in there, and you can use that for whatever you would like. All right, so what I would like you to do is try some of this yourself. If you go to our docs page, there are some new tutorials up there. There's all kinds of learning material there to try some of this out. If you would like to try that second demo that I did, there is a live, if you go on Live Labs and search for Redwood extension, if you don't remember the bit.ly, you can try out that. There's a bunch more to it. I just barely got into the lab, so there's about an hour's worth of material in there all by itself. All right, so just some takeaway points. The new Oracle Cloud apps are being built with Visual Builder. This means that you're able to extend the SaaS apps using the exact same tools that the teams inside of Oracle use to build them. You can use the same utilities and components to create your own applications on top of the data that's stored in Oracle SaaS. And Visual Builder Studio is built into your SaaS application today, right now. Just go look in the test instance of your SaaS platform. There's a link to some more learn more. You can go check out our docs, check out our blogs. We have lots of material out there. Go on YouTube, search for Visual Builder Cloud channel. We have a LinkedIn group where we post links to everything that we put out. And of course, there's that Live Labs. All right, I am going to stop sharing and turn the time back over. It looks like I went a little long. I will turn the time back over to Jürgen.
So Blaine, thank you very much for the excellent presentation and wonderful demos. So we know now that you are a lazy developer who is really productive with VBCS, which I still call it Visual Builder. So to summarize today's webcast, in case you're not yet a member in the partner communities, please register to get a regular update and to get the invite for the next webcast. The documentation is available. Make use of it and get a free trial to run the live labs yourself. And for more information, and today's presentation is available at the community websites. So there are a couple of questions, and thanks to the whole team for answering them. First question is on the licensing side, Blaine. Is Visual Builder part of the free tier / free trial? And how do you license it?
Okay, so if you're in the cloud, Visual Builder and Visual Builder Studio are not part of the what we call the always free instance. If you sign up for a brand new trial and you'll get the 30-day trial period and you'll have some credits, you'll be able to access Visual Builder and Visual Builder Studio during that time frame. Not very, how do I phrase this? There's not very much in Visual Builder Studio and Visual Builder itself that require objects that cost you money. Things that pretty much it charges based on the resources that you use. So when that executor that I was talking about, when that executor is up and running, what that is it's an Oracle Compute instance in the background. So you pay for the compute. If you're storing a lot of data, you pay for the storage. If you're running a database, all of that information is on, if you just go to the Oracle Docs page and look for Visual Builder, there's a link in there that will explain the licensing much better than I can. I'm more of a technical person, so I tend to fumble when I'm asked about licensing questions. But if you have an Oracle SaaS instance, Visual Builder Studio is built into your test environment for your Oracle SaaS. So you can go into there and do those first 2 demos. You can do all of that type of stuff in your SaaS test instance. Right now, you don't have to use the cloud version. You only use that for the third scenario.
Excellent. And Oracle integration also includes VB, so you can make use of your integration instance.
That was one question that came up. Jürgen, thanks for unmuting me. That's one question that's come up a lot in the Q&A is, Blaine, what's the difference between the Visual Builder Studio that's provisioned with the Oracle Integration Cloud versus what you were showing? And the product is the same, but did you have a way that you wanted to answer that?
I I don't know that there's much of a difference at all other than how it's hosted.
Exactly.
Yeah, you should get exactly, and you know, that's the Royal should, you should get exactly the same suite of tools. You should have all the same functionality. It's just a different hosting option. As far as licensing goes, once again, I'm more technical than not. So look at the docs to get the very specific details, if there is any.
Right. And you covered the frequently asked question of, well, if you make customizations, will they remain? That came up a number of times. And then I think the answer is yes, that they will remain.
I assume that question means if like I went and hid the icon. And I assume the question is in future releases, if the page changes and I've made a change to the page, are my changes going to stay? Obviously, everybody understands when you modify something that changes, if you modified something and the thing that you modified goes away. So like if you hid the icon and then Oracle takes the icon away anyway, your change is kind of redundant at that point. But you do want to check anytime a major release comes out. Just that's going back to the pipeline. That's a good time to rerun that pipeline and have some sort of end-to-end testing that will go through and click on the buttons for you and make sure everything's still there. If you, I'm huge on automation. So if you build out a good pipeline that has good tests, all you really need to do is go rerun your pipeline and it'll tell you if things have changed.
So thanks for the wonderful presentation. Thank you everybody for attending. If you have further questions, feel free to reach out to the team. You can also find us on LinkedIn. And once you leave the webcast, please complete the online survey. We would love to get your feedback. And on March 28th, next month, we will update you on Oracle Digital Assistant and the use cases and how you can drive innovation with conversational AI at your customers. So please join us March 28th. Thanks for attending and thank you for joining.